Hello, hello, hello. It's the Second Act Show. Once again, I'm John Tarnoff. I'm joined by the lovely and talented
Carrie Hannon. Great to be here, John.
We are broadcasting right after New Year's 2023 and beginning of another year. Let's hope it's a good one. Did you make any New Year's resolutions?
I
Carrie?
did not. I'm not a big one on New Year's resolutions. I tend to take my inventory at my birthday. But nonetheless, I am looking forward to having a productive and fun year. And I hope everyone out there is too.
Well, I agree. I wish everyone the best. I'm similarly not a fan of New Year's resolutions, but I am a fan of New Year's intentions. And I think that intention setting is an important thing that we can do. It doesn't necessarily set us up for failure the way that resolutions often do. And it's more of a growth mindset process for me anyway. So for what that's worth. So today we have a really great way to kick off the new year with our friend Mike Drak, who is going to come on and talk to us about some of his recent experience, as well as some of the work that he's doing and writing that he's doing. And just by way of introduction, Mike is an author, a public speaker, a recognized authority on the non-financial aspects of retirement. Not one to take retirement lying down, figuratively or literally. Mike recently attempted an Ironman race in Mexico, and we can't wait to find out how he did and the lessons he has for all of us. He's the author of two books, co-author of two books, Victory Lap Retirement and Retirement Heaven or Hell, Which Will You Choose? And a regular contributor to our colleague Susan Williams' news site, Booming Encore. And without further ado, here is our good friend, Mike Drak.
Hi, John. Hi, Carrie. Nice to be here.
Great to have you here.
So, Mike, we're going to drop in with this before we get to talk about the Ironman, which is really kind of burning a hole in my head to ask you about this. The headline of our talk today is this concept of retirement shock, which you coined. And I'd like to start off really asking you about that, about what that experience was like for you, how you came to that, and how this relates to this period of life, whether it's retirement in the sense that it's a financial career retirement or just getting to this stage where you're into this next act.
Well, retirement shock is brutal. And, I suffer from it. Not everyone's going to suffer from it, but my father suffered from it. And I had a good friend die from it. He ended up drinking himself to death because he was isolated and bored and he didn't know what to do. But how it started for me, I'll tell a short story. I got a call one day from my boss at work, and he asked me to come over and review the profit plan with him. So I drove over to his office, and he said to me, you know what, why don't we go upstairs to the boardroom? We'll review it up there. And I thought that was kind of weird because my boss had this real big office. He had a side desk. There was all kinds of room. And as I was walking up to the boardroom, my spider sense went off, and I thought, this is kind of weird. And sure enough, as soon as I walked in the boardroom, there was this young lady sitting there, young enough to be my daughter, and she motioned for me to sit down across from her. And then my boss, I'll never forget, he sat to my left-hand side really close, which kind of felt uncomfortable. I guess maybe he thought I was going to jump out the window or something. And the process went on. And I was just sitting there and I wasn't really paying attention because I was really happy, John. I was planning on leaving anyways. The stress was getting to me. I wasn't having fun at work anymore. And I was actually already telling people, listen, I'm leaving here because I need to do something else. And at the end of the presentation, they said to me, how are you feeling? Is everything okay? And I kind of played them and I said, well, I feel kind of shocked. This is a big shock to me. And I'm a little dizzy. And they said, why don't you go home? Take it easy. I said, I think that's a good idea. So I got in my car. First thing I did was phone my wife. And I said, we hit the jackpot. I was going to leave. And they gave me a severance check. I was the happiest guy in the world for about 2 weeks until one Monday morning hit. And I remember I'm sitting on the couch, feeling miserable. all by myself. My wife had gone to work. She was still working full time. All my friends were still working. I'm sitting trying to find something to watch on the TV. I got one of those fancy TVs, 500 stations or whatnot. I couldn't find anything. I was just miserable, feeling sorry for myself. And what bothered me was no one could understand why I was feeling that way. My wife couldn't, she's pretty sharp. My friends couldn't, because everyone thought, hey, how can Mike be unhappy because he didn't have to work anymore? And they didn't understand that. And I struggled for the longest time until I figured it out doing my research and writing. I found out why that happened. It was basically because there were these needs that used to be fulfilled by the work I was doing. A need for growth, a need for achievement, recognition, a need for being socialized and being with other people. And when my work was taken away from me, I couldn't fill those needs anymore. And that really threw me off. That caused me a lot of trouble. And I struggled with it mentally and physically until I could find new sources to feed those needs. And thankfully, I was able to do it. And when I did that, the retirement shock disappeared. But it was hard. And it was hard for about a year.
Yeah, because there's like no off-ramp in that situation. You haven't, had time to sort of even sort out what activities you'd want to do at that time, right?
Yeah. But at that point, when you're suffering from retirement shock, you don't want to do anything. Even the things that you love to do didn't interest me. I just wanted to basically just sit there and feel sorry for myself and moan a lot. And it's the craziest. It's like being in another pandemic. You're like in a fog and you don't know what to do.
Mike, had you been in a pretty steady state career up to that point?
I worked for the same bank for 36 years.
Wow.
And I was very good at my job. And I liked the job I was doing because it allowed me to help a lot of people, customers save for retirement, and also for small business owners, help them grow their businesses. I really enjoyed the work I was doing. But I didn't understand there were all these other benefits attached to it that I never thought about, it, like the way they satisfied my fundamental needs. So the job was more than just money. But I didn't realize it at the time, what an important role that work played in my life.
Did you find in processing the loss of the job and going through this retirement shock process, did you find other people somehow kind of attracting into you, sharing the similar experience?
Yes. As a matter of fact, after my first book and I went out and started doing seminars talking about Victory Lap retirement, people would come up to me at the end of the seminar and tell me stories about family members or friends they had that were suffering, going through a similar experience. And it was hard to listen to them because these are successful people that did very well. They had a lot of money saved up for retirement. There's no way they should have suffered, but yet they did because they lost their purpose in life. And it was hard for them.
Yeah, it's like your whole sense of identity. I mean, I tend to, Mike, spend a lot of time helping people prepare financially for this stage in life, but it's this emotional component that is so essential.
Well, yes, and Carrie, you're so right, because I have a hard time when people label me retired. I don't want anything to do it. Some people can wear that as a badge of honor that they made the retirement finish line, they're winners, and now they're just going to take it easy and enjoy life. But I can't work like that. I need to grow. I need to learn and experience new things. And so when people say you're retired, I'm not. I retired from the bank, but I'm doing other things now that are very fulfilling and meaningful to me. So yeah, it rubs me the wrong way. It just drives me crazy.
Mike, let's talk a little bit about this concept of Victory Lap retirement. So I think, we had Justin Smith from Savant Wealth Management on the broadcast a few months ago, who's a big believer in this and essentially teaches this or implements this with his clients who are contemplating a more active retirement and staying involved in their business life, even if they are quote unquote retired. So talk a little bit about this and how this relates to other different solutions we are hearing about and are being implemented around business, such as phased retirement programs and the like?
Well, the way I look at it, and I wrote in Victory Lap Retirement, is we're kind of throwing the goal of retirement out the door, and we're saying, let's work towards financial independence instead. And we work towards financial independence because once we get there, we get our freedom back. And then it's up to us how we're going to use that freedom. And many people, like myself, will use that freedom to do something else. So we're not going to retire in the traditional sense of the word. We're going to find work that we enjoy doing. It might not be work that pays as much as we used to earn in our corporate jobs, but it's work that really makes us feel good, that it gives us meaning and is fulfilling, and it's work that we can carry on for as long as we want. Like personally, I don't have an intention to retire anytime soon. I might work right to the end because I enjoy what I'm doing. So why would I? So that's the benefit of a victory lap, is that you can create this lifestyle that includes a component of work, and it can be paid or unpaid, that you can keep doing for as long as you want.
So it's like an evolution rather than a retirement. I think that's sort of what you're describing there, is you're evolving what you were doing into new directions. And like I like to talk about too, Mike, and you do as well, it's you're taking control of your life again. You're no longer reporting into the bank, you're reporting into Mike Drake.
That's right. Very well put. And that's exactly it, Carrie, because you're getting your autonomy back. You're getting your freedom back. You're living life on your own terms. And, the way I want to live life is I want to have something meaningful to do. Maybe something I can make a few dollars at the same time to, enjoy a lifestyle that I couldn't enjoy otherwise.
Mike, when you're out and about talking about your book, talking about these concepts to people, what's the response? Are you finding, and maybe this response is changing over time over the last 5-10 years, but are you finding people are welcoming this? Do they find this really energizing? Do they find it concerning? Are they intimidated by it? What are the range of responses, and how are you advising people to absorb this and execute on this?
I can safely say that the majority, over 50%, really get excited, because now they're saying, I don't have to retire. No, you don't have to. I can do other things. Yeah. And they get excited about that. But it's funny, you get the odd person coming up and they're saying, oh, I have to retire because I don't want to take a job away from a younger person. And then we need to talk about that. No, you're not, because you're doing different work, or you're doing work that they wouldn't want to do. Because really, we're not looking for promotions or anything anymore. We're just looking at creating a fulfilling, happy life for ourselves. So that idea of keep climbing the corporate ladder and all that, that's gone. We totally ignore that. But it's surprising how many people actually say that. I get at least one per seminar say that. And I feel like hitting my head against the wall.
We're so wired to do that. The thing about the younger worker is one thing, but the idea of having a linear career and a linear work life is so ingrained in us that the idea that things can be a little bit messy and that we might actually not know what it's going to be like. And it scares people, that fear of kind of messiness.
Yes. And, it is messy because no, it's not a straight line anymore. And that's the fun of it too, is we get to be creative and we can really sit down and say, hey, this is what I want to do. Like some people might just want to do a simple job like my father did. He ended up working 2 days a week delivering pet food for one of those small retail pet food companies. And he really enjoyed it because it gave him purpose. He turned into a mentor for the young man that owned the business. So it gave him a chance to utilize the skills he developed in the corporate world. And he just loved life after that. And it got him away out of retirement shock. A simple job like that, a simple source of purpose was all he needed. But
and
he
the connection,
for a while.
that Mike, the connection people. I think a lot of people withdraw. Like even you said, those first couple of weeks, you're like, I don't want to even go outside of my house. But once you start connecting with other human beings out in the world, you have that degree that kind of keeps you engaged, right?
Oh yeah, and they pull you out of that funk you're in too. You need to socialize with people. It's one of the most important things. And isolation is a huge health risk, really. And a lot of people withdraw and pull back, and that's really dangerous. I'll tell you one thing. I gave a talk at a manufacturing company once. I'll never forget this. A person came up to me after the talk and he said, I'll never retire. And he was in his late 60s. He was a welder. And I said, why? He said, because all my friends that retired before me are dead. And it kind of shook me. Right. And then he explained that. And then I started to think about it. And I said, yeah, I get it. Because they lost their purpose and they started to allow some bad habits start to seep into their lifestyle that were blocked before because they had to work full time. And they got off track and it cost them large. And so you have to be so careful about these things, right? And you have to think them through.
You know, you're describing a paradigm shift that I think is something that we're having a hard time as a culture absorbing. And it's back to your idea of climbing the corporate ladder and this idea that, well, if I'm not climbing the corporate ladder, then what's my purpose, right? While there's a realization that you don't have to climb the corporate ladder to have a purpose. But I wonder what your experience is in talking to companies, talking to employers, about whether or how much they understand the idea that an older worker might no longer want to climb that ladder. So they might no longer want to strive for a particular position and now may have different career goals. And how are they going to accommodate that?
They're starting to wake up to it. The good companies are, and they're not just talking about it, they're actually taking action because they don't want to lose these older workers, and they can't afford to lose them right now. So they're having these conversations and they're actually saying, well, what's your game plan? What do you want to do? What do you see for yourself in the next 5 years? Do you want to stay with the company? And on what basis do you want to stay with the company? And these are the companies that will win because they'll do well. They'll keep their older workforce in place because they're so valuable. And the people will want to work there because they respect the company trying to do what's best for them too. So it's a win-win, but we have a long way to go. You know, it's just starting. Right?
Mike, do you have any advice for people trying to find their purpose though? I mean, it's so hard to do that inner search. Do you, in your talks and when you meet with people, do you have any sort of playbook that you share with them or ideas?
I'm a big fan of using the Ikigai process. I wrote a chapter of it in our book that we're going to talk about later, but it's something that I talk to everyone about. And basically, it's 4 questions that you need to answer, and it will help you figure out your purpose in life going forward. And it's one of the most powerful tools, and it's the simplest tool of them all too. And that's the beauty, is its simplicity. But I used it a couple of times. I used it the first time. I found a real great job for myself, but I turned it down at the last minute because it didn't satisfy one of my needs, and that was for autonomy and for freedom. It was the perfect fit for me, but I said no because I don't want to give that up again. And I went through the process again, and that's how I came up with the job that I'm doing now. And life has never been better. But it's a process I really have a lot of faith in. I've used it with a lot of people, and it's been very successful. So I urge people to have a look at it.
Great. Hey, Mike, we're getting to that part of the show where I want to pivot into talking about the Ironman. And so you posted this on LinkedIn, and so I'm going to dare to show it here for our viewers. You're very brave to post this, but this is a picture of Mike. This is you coming off of the Ironman, right? Coming off of the.
I was coming out of the water after the swim.
Right.
Oh yes.
Right. So
How long was the swim, Mike? How long was the swim?
The swim took me 1 hour and 37 minutes. So you have to swim 3.8 kilometers.
Wow.
And what had happened is the weather was rough, so there were these swells. And as soon as I jumped in the water, someone kicked me in my right eye. And it knocked my goggles off. And then I was trying to fit them properly, and I never could. So this salt water kept leaking in and stinging my eye. So I couldn't even see out of my right eye. Yeah. And I think I was swimming in circles for most of the swim. Yeah. And then at one point, I felt I was swimming through seaweed. But it wasn't. It was jellyfish. And I ended up getting all
these things
all over my body.
Oh, no.
But whenever I look at that picture, I feel like I laugh because I look like Rocky after his first fight with Apollo Creed.
Right.
And then I got on the bike and I started riding, and it was a heck of a day.
So back us up a little bit. What led up to this? How did you train? Do you have a background in doing, swimming, biking, running? I mean, are you an athlete by disposition?
Not by that picture, John. I'll tell you what happened. When I was going through retirement shock, and then I started writing books and whatnot, I really got caught up in it. So I spent a lot of time sitting at my desk. I'm not a very good writer. I'm a plotter, not a gifted writer. So when I get stressed out when I was writing, I would graze a lot. I would eat snacks and whatnot. I never exercised for up to 7 years, I think, total. And I gained 53 pounds. I was borderline obese. I had high blood pressure. I had mobility issues because I was scrunched over in front of the computer all the time. Then I had to go through the pandemic. It even got worse. And after working on the last book, and I talk about longevity and health, I said, well, listen, I got to walk the talk. I can't be telling people what to do, and I'm not doing it. So I said, you know what, I'm going to get healthy again because I want to live a long time too. And I said, I'm going to sign up for this Ironman crazy thing. Wow. It's going to force me to get healthy, and I'm going to train for 10 months. I'm going to hire a coach to hold me accountable and push me when I want to quit, because I know I'm going to want to quit from time to time because it's hard. And that's where the idea came from. And I signed up to go to Cozumel in November. It would be at the end of the year so I could train all summer long. It was one of the hardest things I ever did. But I got there and I started, and I was so proud of that. Now, it didn't turn out well. If you want to hear the end of the story, you can go to Booming Encore and read the race report. But it wasn't my fault, John.
That's not the point. The point is, I mean, back to this idea about process. What's important to me from the story, and I was, as you know, I was following along with you on LinkedIn, along with all of your colleagues and friends on LinkedIn. I think the fact that you showed up for this and that you took whatever lesson and experience out of it that you did is what matters. It's not about, finishing. It's not about anything. It's about the lessons. It's about the experience. It's about having said, screw it, man. I'm just going to go do it and see what happens. And I think that is so inspiring for me, and I'm sure for so many people who are watching this, just the idea that you would flip and go and do this. I mean, bravo, right?
Yeah, it was one of the craziest things I've done. But I tell you, some important lessons came out of it.
Let's talk about that.
It reminded me how capable I really am if I have a big enough why. And my why was big because I wanted to get healthy again. I didn't want to die before my time. And that was so important to me. So that was the big goal, was to get healthy again. And that didn't mean I had to finish it, but I had to train, and I had to get to the starting line, and I had to participate. And like I said, if you read the story, it's unfortunate I couldn't finish because of circumstances beyond my control. But it's like Everest. It's still there. I couldn't climb the mountain. So I'm going to go back in 2 years to celebrate my 70th birthday and give it another shot, John.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
yeah,
Mike, what did you
Sorry.
learn about yourself? What did anything reveal itself that you know about your own character that you hadn't expected?
I learned that I'm stubborn. I learned that I don't want to give up. And in that race, 1,500 people signed up. And I'm talking, most of them are young. They're not like 68 like I was. And 500 of the 1,500 quit before the end of the race. I didn't quit. But, I'm a turtle, not a hare like they are. But I just kept going and going. And I was enjoying myself, as a matter of fact. But it was a tough race, I'll tell you. But it was one of the hardest but most rewarding things I ever attempted in my life. And it's similar to writing a book, Carrie. To me, that's an Ironman too, like to get through. And at the end of the day, you look at what you accomplished and you go, wow, that was pretty good. It was hard, but it's pretty good. It makes you feel really good inside because you're going to help a lot of people with the work that you put in. And doing Ironman too, I knew I could serve as a role model and show people what's possible, and show people the importance of getting healthy, and show people that it's far from over. There's all these amazing things we can do if we have a big enough why for why we want to do them. And we're so much more capable than we give ourselves credit for.
Right on.
I love that message. I think we all need to hear more of that.
True.
Hey, Mike. So you've got a giveaway going right now as we're broadcasting and as this is going to go up on replay. So tell our audience about that.
All right. Well, I've reached a point in my life, for whatever reason, I've gone from getting to giving, and I'm just trying to help out as many people as possible. So I got together with a bunch of my friends, and we wrote a book. And it's a book about living your best life. How to live longer and better than average. And it's a step above traditional retirement planning where they just focus on the money aspect and everything. This is all the other stuff that you need to know. How to, create a meaningful and fulfilling life for yourself, and how to have a lot of fun with your remaining years. And then when we finished the book, I said, this is so important and we can help a lot of people. Why don't we give it away for free? And I set a goal of having it downloaded 1 million times. That's my mission, one of my missions in life, besides Ironman again. And so anyone that wants to go to boomingencore.com can download the book for free. It's also available on Amazon if you want a printed copy, but I put it there at a really low price so people can benefit from it. I'm doing an audio version too. So it's, I love the work we did. And people are loving the book. So I feel pretty good about it. And I was lucky. I worked with a group of great people.
Tell us the name of the book again.
It's Longevity Lifestyle by Design.
Great. Longevity Lifestyle by Design. Perfect.
And there's a big article on Ikigai in there too that
great.
people will be interested in.
Great. All right. So Booming Encore, it's available or on Amazon. That's great. Thank you on behalf of all of the readers. Thank you for your generosity and extending that information to all of us.
Oh, our pleasure.
So let's wrap up. Before we wrap up, I just want to throw up a card with our next guest, Paul Irving, who was going to guest with us a few months ago, but had a conflict, and he is back, and we will be talking to him in our next show on January 26th. So watch for that, and we will talk to Paul. Carrie, anything you want to say about that?
Well, I think it's going to be a great show. Paul just really has a feel for the pulse of what's been going on in this whole area of aging, from, livable cities to work and jobs and all kinds of stuff. So I think we'll get some good perspective from Paul on what he's seen out there. And he actually did one of these programs as well, the Harvard program, for where you take a year sabbatical and sort of figure out what you want to do next. And he shifted from being a corporate attorney to going to Milken. So I think he'll have a lot to share with the audience.
That's great. All right. Well, Mike Drak, thank you so much for for spending time with us today on the Second Act Show. Any final words?
No, I just want people to enjoy life and go out there and keep pushing and testing yourself and look at the possibilities, because there's so many out there.
Great.
And it's been a pleasure being with both of you. I'm big fans of both of your work.
Thanks. Well,
Well,
all
Mike,
good.
thank you. Thank you.
All right.
So everyone go download the book.
Mike, hang on the stream and we'll be back to you after the outro.
Okay.
Okay. Bye, everyone. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye, everyone. Take care.